Hello, welcome back. Um, I made a video at the beginning of the Spurs Thunder series uh, with my prediction, and that series just ended last night. Go Spurs, go! I am a huge Spurs fan, so we will recap that and we'll see where I was right and a couple spots where I think I was actually still wrong. Um, and what I think maybe going forward a little bit here. So I realized at the end of my last video, I never actually introed myself or the channel or anything like that. I am new to this, so we'll see how this goes. But my name is Alex Cage. This is Cage's Comments, where I will be making my thoughts or my comments known on a variety of sports takes, probably mostly revolving around the teams that I like, which are the Spurs um, and the Patriots for football, and the Texas Longhorn for college football, or any college sports for that matter. So appreciate anyone who's watching. Please feel free, I guess, to hit the like and subscribe button, and let's go and get started. So, Game 7 last night, Spurs Thunder. What a show! It was absolutely awesome, and it was a blast to watch. Obviously, more fun for me and the rest of the Spurs fans than maybe OKC, but it was a hell of a game. And getting 7 games out of these two teams was, I think, everything anyone wanted, just as a basketball fan. So to start with this, I thought it was a true team effort. I thought after Game 5, the Spurs were going to need 2 huge Victor Wembanyama games, which he had not really done back to back. In Game 6, they didn't need him for the full 4 quarters, right? They had a huge run in the third, but he came out super aggressive. And I thought in Game 7, while he was aggressive again, that this was really about a whole team effort from the Spurs. This was Champagnie hitting 6 threes. This was Cornette with the block of his life. Harper looked good and healthy again. Fox had the best game he's played in this postseason, as far as I'm concerned. He was excellent, had 10 of his 15 in the first half. His defense was really good. Him coming back and being able to take some of the playmaking responsibilities and ball handling duties off of Castle, I think, was huge in this series. So that was so much fun to watch. They did a great job, and I thought it was really and truly a full team effort. That being said, I do want to touch on the things I kind of talked about going into the series, my biggest concerns and how the Spurs did and didn't handle them. First one was Shea, right? Of course, if you're playing the 2-time MVP, how are you going to guard him? How much are you going to be able to bother him? The Spurs did an excellent job. Shea, the last 2 years in the postseason, has been averaging 30, 5, and 6. So that's all of last year's run through the title and all of this year's run up until this series. And he did 35 and 6 on an effective field goal percentage of 51. That's really good. That's how you win back-to-back MVPs and look like one of the best players in the world. Spurs held him to 25 3 and a 9 assist because they were sending so many bodies out him. He did a great job playmaking. On an effective field goal percentage, though, of 43%. They held Shea at or under 40% in 5 of these 7 games. The only games he shot above that were games 2 and last night in Game 7, where he was excellent. The Spurs did an excellent job on him. Castle obviously taking the primary assignment there, but I also really want to shout out Devin Vassell, who Data Ball R, which is a stats website. They do a great job with a lot of things, but they do have some kind of matchup and tracking data in that regard. They've got Vassell having guarded Shea on about 90-ish possessions and held him to a effective field goal percentage of 32%. which is really good, and I thought really impactful. I thought Vassell was excellent this series, particularly on the defensive end, when he needed to take that assignment when Castle was either out of the game or when Castle got himself in foul trouble, right? And that was a big part of this, I think, series as well, is that the Spurs were able to kind of put Castle back in the game, even when he was in foul trouble, knowing, hey, we're gonna put Vassell on him and we're on Shea, and we're still gonna be okay. So they did an excellent job. Specifically on Shea, I thought, my biggest concern was going to be his scoring, particularly late in the fourth quarter of these games. And the Spurs in game one, I thought, Jesus, they're going to prove me right. He had 12 points in the fourth quarter. They had been leading that game they'd been leading all game. He kind of walked him down, and then they held him to 2 points in the 2 overtime series. The middle of this series, there were kind of blowouts in both directions, but held him to 4 in game 7, fourth quarter points. He did have 3 assists because Cason Wallace turned around and did his best Klay Thompson impression. Every time I thought the Spurs were actually just going to pull away, he just answered with another 3. But the Spurs did an excellent job on SGA, and this is the least effective he's been in a series in 2 seasons. So great job by the Spurs there. The next piece that I thought for OKC that I talked about that I thought would be in their favor, and boy could I not have been more wrong, was I thought they would, unlike Minnesota, where when Rudy Gobert was off the floor, Minnesota didn't really have another, like, hey, great rim protector to sub in for him, right, between Randall and Naz Reid. I thought Spurs would be able to play Hartenstein off the floor, and that OKC would then still be able to have rim protection on the floor because of Chet. And boy, was I basically wrong. Chet was one of the least impactful players that actually played in this series. It was super tough for him, and is going to be a long off season. And there's going to be a lot of talk. There already is about trading him, about trying to flip him for Giannis. I don't know that I would necessarily do that. Honestly, if I were OKC, I do think that Chet has kind of earned a bad series, but it was a horrific series. Again, I'm not really sure, outside of maybe Dort, if there was a player there certainly wasn't a player who disappointed more, because you didn't have great expectations for Dort, but I don't know that there was a player that was less impactful for the Thunder than Chet. I mean, Hartenstein, who it looked like when they subbed him out so quick in game 1 was just not going to have a place, ended up really and truly having a place in this series, being super physical with Wemby, getting on the boards, and being impactful in that manner. Chet was just a massive disappointment, and I thought at the very least, even if he wasn't going to match up with Wemby a ton, that he would still be able to be impactful as a help defender and rebounder, and he just really wasn't. He gave you like 7 boards a game, he got like 8 blocks, but watching all of these games, it never really felt like he ever put his imprint on any of these games, and I thought he would still have the ability to do that in a help defense way, but he just got punked. So that's tough. The next thing that I kind of talked about with the Thunder was going to be their secondary playmaking. I would love to come out here and tell you, I also thought that the Spurs maybe would actually be able to match that depth, and I'd love to be able to come out here and tell you that I thought they did. I didn't. When Harper was good, that meant that the Spurs matched the depth, or that they at least could kind of match the bench scoring. When he wasn't, they couldn't, and that's something that just basically ended up in the Spurs' favor only because of injury, only because J-Dub and A.J. Mitchell ended up going out of this series and not being able to play, was that really in the Spurs' favor? Which does mean, right? Like if you're an OKC fan, or if you're thinking about what moves they can or couldn't make, it's not a crazy thing to be like, look, outside of probably Dort, um, we can run this back. Like, Jalen Williams just had a tough year. He only played 33 games. He never got in the rhythm. He had to miss basically had to miss 2 whole series. AJ Mitchell really emerged. You've got to think he's back next year, full year of him, and then you found, right, traded for, bamboozled, hoodwinked, whatever, the Sixers out of McCain. Um, and, that is more than enough to, I think, replace the Lou Dort minutes, with the assumption that he's not back next year. So I don't think, that was a tough spot for OKC, and they weren't able to overcome it, but I don't think that's something that I was like right on at the beginning of the series. I think they got unlucky, and Williams has been hurt all year, so I don't know if that's unlucky for this season, but unlucky overall. But AJ Mitchell going out after kind of really popping off in the postseason, I think is tough. Put a ton on Shea, and I think he mostly handled it okay. But when everything's on you like that, it's a tough spot to be in. So those were kind of my 3 big points, and Spurs kind of responses to that. As to why I thought the Spurs would still win, I thought Wemby would look like the best player in the world, and he certainly did. He had a bit of an up and down series, as I think Shea did as well. I thought he would have his 48 special, I'm the best player in the world game in the back half of this series, and he came out and did it in game 1. And that was, awesome out of him. I do think the conditioning and the every other day wore him down a bit. I don't think he was quite as enthusiastic at all times defensively in terms of challenging shots and everything. He made some great hustle plays, I still think, and battled a ton late in this game. And I think he certainly showed that even when he looks tired, he can kind of do that thing that the most competitive and the best players do, which is they find a way to find the energy. But I do think it took a toll on him, but he looked like the best player in the world in this series. And we're, talking about a guy who in the end gave you 27, 11, and 2.5 blocks a game on an effective field goal percentage of 54%, and we're still sitting up here going, yeah, and at times it looked like he could have played better, which is a scary thought moving forward. Last night in particular, shout out to De'Aaron Fox and Sham Penny, who I thought both had, for kind of different reasons, struggled at times in this postseason. Fox obviously kind of post having his ankle rolled on in that Minnesota series, didn't look super explosive through this, didn't look super quick through this series, and Sham Penny, I think going into game 5 or 6 at one point, I remember texting with some of my buddies, like him and Dort were shooting like the same percentage from 3, which is not at all, if you're a Spurs fan, acceptable. But they were both huge. Fox in the first half had 10 of his points. Champagny in the second half hit 4 of his 6 threes, one huge one late in the fourth. Those guys were really, really good and showcased kind of the power of the Spurs kind of egalitarian system, where any of those guys on any given night can be the next highest scorer on the team. So I thought that was huge. And should give you a lot of does give me and should give the Spurs a ton of optimism going into this next round in terms of Fox looks healthy, right? He's going to get 3 more days off. These games in the finals are going to be every 2 days, not every other day, and so I think that should be optimism there for out of the Spurs. So yeah, so that's kind of my thoughts and reactions. Thanks guys for tuning in. I will make another prediction video for the finals. Uh, and a shocker, yeah, I'm gonna pick the Spurs. The basketball genius over here picking his favorite team. But thanks for watching. See you guys next time.